What I saw felt unreal, until I realized I wasn't alone in my bed. Starlight Encounter Maya Chen had grown accustomed to solitude. 3 years on Helios 7, a research outpost orbiting an exoplanet in the Kepler system, had trained her to find comfort in the rhythmic hum of life support systems and the distant sparkle of unfamiliar stars. As the station's senior astrobiologist, she spent her days analyzing soil samples from the planet below, cataloging microorganisms that defied Earth's classifications. Tonight, however, something felt different. Unusual solar activity detected, announced the station's AI. Radiation levels increasing. Recommend standard shielding protocols. Maya glanced at her holographic display, noting the brilliant flare emanating from the system's star. Activate full-spectrum shields area and run diagnostics on the quantum field sensors. I want to monitor any gravitational anomalies. After securing her lab specimens, Maya retired to her quarters, a modest compartment with a viewport that offered a breathtaking view of Kepler 438b, the potentially habitable world they orbited. She changed into loose-fitting sleepwear and settled onto her bed with a tablet, reviewing the day's findings until her eyelids grew heavy. The first sign that something was amiss came as a tingling sensation across her skin. Maya's eyes snapped open to find her room bathed in an ethereal violet light that seemed to pulse with life. The air felt dense, charged with an energy that made the fine hairs on her arms stand on end. "Arya, what's happening?" she called. But the AI remained silent. The light intensified, coalescing into a shimmering portal that hovered above the foot of her bed. Maya scrambled backward, pressing her back against the wall as the portal expanded, stretching and contorting until, with a sound like crystal chimes, 2 figures tumbled through. They fell in a tangle of limbs onto her bed, humanoid in form but unmistakably alien. Their skin gleamed with a soft lavender hue that shifted with iridescent patterns when they moved. Long, flowing hair resembling liquid amethyst framed delicate faces with large, almond-shaped eyes that shone like polished opals. Maya froze. Her breath caught in her throat as one of the beings, slightly taller with intricate markings along her temples, lifted her head and locked eyes with her. There was intelligence there and confusion and something else Maya couldn't quite identify. "Who? What are you?" Maya whispered, her scientific training momentarily overwhelmed by primal fear. The taller being extended a slender hand toward Maya, palm upward in what seemed like a universal gesture of peace. When she spoke, her voice resonated like music. "Nylara," she said, touching her chest. Then, gesturing to her companion who was now cautiously rising to a sitting position, "Zelith." The second alien, Zelith, appeared younger somehow, with a more curious expression as she examined Maya's quarters with wide, fascinated eyes. Her movements were fluid, almost dance-like as she shifted her weight on the bed. "Maya," Maya responded, pointing to herself, basic communication instincts taking over. "Human. Earth." Nylara nodded slowly, then placed her fingertips against her forehead before extending them toward Maya. A strange sensation washed over Maya's mind. Not invasive, but warm and questioning, like gentle waves lapping at the shore of her consciousness. "You understand me?" Maya asked, astonished as meanings rather than words seemed to form between them. Fragments, broken, connection forming, came the impression in Maya's mind, accompanied by images of stars, crystals, and a world bathed in perpetual twilight. The sudden blaring of alarms shattered the moment. "Security breach detected in residential section," Area announced. "Containment protocols initiating." Panic flashed across Nylara's features, and Zelith moved closer to her, their hands intertwining. Maya made a split-second decision, one that would alter the trajectory of her life and possibly human history. "Arya, override containment. Authorization Chen Alpha 6. Override accepted. Awaiting instructions." Maya took a deep breath, studying the 2 beings who had literally fallen into her life. They were scared, disoriented, just as she would be if suddenly transported to an alien world. "We need to figure this out," she said slowly, knowing they might not understand her words but hoping they'd sense her intent. "Where you came from, how you got here, and how to keep you safe." As if in response, the station lights flickered, and through her viewport, Maya could see the solar storm intensifying, bathing everything in an otherworldly glow that matched the color of her unexpected visitor's skin. They were not alone anymore, any of them. Whispers across worlds. The first 72 hours with Nylara and Zelith tested every scientific principle Maya thought she understood. She'd managed to keep their presence hidden from most of the station's 12-person crew, explaining the energy surge as an equipment malfunction and confining her visitors to her quarters while she worked. "Dr. Ryland is getting suspicious," Maya muttered as she entered her quarters, the door sliding shut behind her. "He wants to inspect the quantum fluctuation readings himself." Nylara looked up from where she sat cross-legged on the floor, her opalescent eyes reflecting the soft blue light from Maya's terminal. Over the past days, their ability to communicate had evolved remarkably. What began as fragmented impressions had developed into a nuanced telepathic bond that transcended language. "Danger?" came Nylara's thought, accompanied by images of confinement and fear that made Maya's heart clench. "No, not yet," Maya reassured her, settling beside the aliens on the floor. "But we need to understand what happened. How you came here." Zelith, who had been examining Maya's collection of earth plants with childlike wonder, joined them. Unlike Nylara's reserved demeanor, Zelith approached everything with unbridled curiosity. She reached out, her slender fingers hovering just above Maya's temple. "Show you, home." "Etheria," came Zelith's thoughts, more vibrant and colorful than Nylara's precise communications. Maya nodded, closing her eyes as Zelith's cool fingertips made contact with her skin. Instantly, her mind was flooded with visions of a crystalline world bathed in the light of 3 moons. Structures like living geodes reached toward a perpetually twilit sky, while beings similar to her visitors moved through gardens of luminescent flora that responded to their touch. The beauty was breathtaking, but underlying it all was a profound sense of loss and longing. "Your home is dying," Maya whispered as the vision faded, understanding flooding her consciousness. Nylara nodded solemnly. "The great crystals fade. Life energy diminishes. We are scholars, seekers of salvation. The experiment, the one that brought you here, you were looking for a new home? Not intentional crossing," Zelith corrected, her mental voice tinged with a playfulness that contradicted the gravity of their situation, studying dimensional boundaries. "Your starstorm-created bridge? Unexpected journey." Maya ran her fingers through her short black hair, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her concern. "You're saying the solar flare somehow interacted with your experiment and created a temporary wormhole? That's theoretically possible, but the odds—" Her words trailed off as Nylara gently took her hand. The touch sent a tingling sensation up Maya's arm, not unpleasant but intensely foreign. Through their connection, she sensed Nylara's intelligence. Centuries of knowledge compressed into a mind that perceived reality differently than her own. Probability meaningless across infinite realities, came Nylara's thought. Connection between us, predestined perhaps? Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks at the implication and the unexpected intimacy of their mental link. Over the past days, she'd found herself increasingly drawn to Nylara's ancient wisdom and Zelith's joyful spirit. There was something about them that awakened parts of herself she'd long neglected during her years of scientific isolation. "I don't know about destiny," Maya said softly, "but I'm glad you're here, even if we need to figure out what happens next." The moment was interrupted by a chime from her communication device. Maya reluctantly pulled her hand away from Nylara's to check the message. "It's Dr. Ryland. He's requesting access to my quarters for an equipment check." Fear shot through her. He knows something's wrong. Zelith moved with surprising speed, placing both hands on Maya's shoulders. An immediate sense of calm washed over her as the alien shared an impression of concealment, of hiding in plain sight. "We can alter perception," came Zelith's explanation. "Temporary only. We'll see what expects to see." Maya hesitated, torn between scientific ethics and her growing protective instinct toward her visitors. "You can make him not see you?" Nylara joined them, her expression solemn. "Not manipulation. Suggestion only. Choice remains his." After a moment's consideration, Maya nodded. "Okay, but stay back, just in case." When Ryland entered minutes later, a tall man with perpetually furrowed brows and a reputation for by-the-book procedures, Maya held her breath. His eyes swept past the aliens as if they were merely shadows in the corner of the room. "The energy readings originated from your quarters, Chen," he said suspiciously. "Have you been conducting unauthorized experiments?" "Just some personal research, Doctor." Maya replied, forcing her voice to remain steady. Nothing that interferes with station protocols. Ryland's gaze lingered uncomfortably on the spot where Nylara stood, and for a heart-stopping moment, Maya thought the alien's influence had failed. But then he simply nodded curtly. Keep it within parameters. We can't afford anomalies with headquarters already questioning our funding. With that, he left, the door sliding shut behind him. Maya exhaled shakily, turning to her companions. That was close. Zelith approached with a playful spin, her movements graceful as she took Maya's hands and twirled her in a spontaneous dance of relief. Exciting, like hiding treasures. Despite herself, Maya laughed, a sound that felt foreign after so many months of solitary work. Nylara watched them with a softening expression, and through their connection, Maya sensed approval and something warmer, more personal. That night, as station lights dimmed to simulate Earth's cycle, Maya found herself unable to sleep. The small cot she'd arranged for her visitors remained empty, as Nylara and Zelith explained that their species required minimal rest, preferring instead to enter short meditative states. You must miss your home, Maya said quietly into the darkness. The weight on her bed shifted as Nylara sat beside her. Home is where connection exists, came her gentle reply. We find unexpected connection here. In the soft glow of the starlight through her viewport, Maya could see the delicate patterns shifting across Nylara's lavender skin. Without thinking, she reached out to trace them with her fingertip. Nylara's eyes widened at the contact, but she didn't pull away. Our life patterns, she explained as Maya's finger followed a swirling design. They tell our story, our lineage, our heart. They're beautiful, Maya whispered, suddenly aware of how close they were. From the other side of the room, Zelith watched with glimmering eyes, her thoughts a warm presence at the edge of Maya's consciousness, encouraging and curious rather than intrusive. For the first time since they arrived, Maya allowed herself to acknowledge the truth. Whatever had brought these beings into her life, she was no longer simply a scientist observing an extraordinary phenomenon. She was becoming part of it. They were not alone anymore, any of them. Touch of stardust. There's absolutely no precedent for this, Maya said, pacing her small quarters while Zelith watched her with amused fascination. Interdimensional visitors aren't covered in the station protocol handbook. It had been 2 weeks since the arrival of her Etherian companions, and their presence had transformed Maya's methodical existence into something wonderfully chaotic. She'd managed to keep them hidden from the rest of the crew through a combination of Nylara and Zelith's perceptual abilities and careful scheduling, but the strain was beginning to show. Why not tell truth? Zelith asked, floating cross-legged a few inches above Maya's desk. A casual display of the natural levitation abilities Maya had discovered her visitors possessed. Are all humans so fearful of difference? It's complicated. Maya sighed, stopping to look at the younger alien. Humans have a mixed history when it comes to encountering the unknown. Some would welcome you with open arms, others would study us, dissect our abilities. Nylara finished as she emerged from the small bathroom, her liquid amethyst hair damp from the shower she'd been fascinated to discover. We understand caution, Maya-Chen. Maya couldn't help but stare. Over the past weeks, her visitors had adopted human clothing, borrowed from Maya's limited wardrobe. But they wore it differently, transforming simple station-issue garments into something ethereal. Nylara had wrapped herself in one of Maya's white research tunics, the fabric clinging to her still damp lavender skin in a way that made Maya's pulse quicken. Zelith noticed Maya's reaction and sent a teasing mental image that made Maya blush furiously. The younger Etherian had quickly grasped the concept of human attraction and seemed delighted by the emotional responses she could provoke in their host. That's enough mind reading, Maya said firmly, though she couldn't suppress a smile. The telepathic bond between them had deepened daily, moving beyond simple communication into a shared emotional landscape that was both exhilarating and terrifying. Not reading, Zelith protested playfully. Feeling. Your emotions shine like solar flares. Maya-Chen. Before Maya could respond, her communication device chimed. Dr. Chen, please report to the central lab, came Dr. Ryland's voice. We've detected recurring anomalies in the quantum field. I require your expertise immediately. Maya exchanged worried glances with Nylara. He's getting closer to the truth. The dimensional rift left traces in the station's sensors. "We will accompany you," Nylara stated simply. "That's impossible. If you're seen, we will not be seen," Nylara assured her, placing a cool hand on Maya's arm. "But separation is unwise while the dimensional energies remain unstable." Maya wanted to argue, but she'd learned to trust Nylara's judgment. The older Etherian possessed knowledge of cosmic principles that surpassed Earth's most advanced theories. "Stay close and remain absolutely silent," Maya instructed as they left her quarters. The central lab was Helios 7's largest facility, a circular chamber dominated by holographic displays and monitoring equipment. Dr. Ryland stood at the main console, his lanky frame hunched over readings that Maya recognized as dimensional fluctuation patterns. "Ah, Chen, look at this," he said without preamble, gesturing to a waveform display. "These patterns shouldn't exist in our universe. They violate several laws of quantum mechanics." Maya felt Nylara and Zelith's invisible presence behind her as she examined the data. "Perhaps it's a sensor malfunction," she suggested carefully. "The solar storm could have damaged—" "It's not a malfunction," Ryland interrupted sharply. "Something happened during that storm, something unprecedented." His eyes narrowed as he studied her face. "And I think you know more than you're telling me." Maya maintained her composure even as she felt Zelith's anxiety rippling through their mental connection. "I've been conducting some theoretical work on dimensional barriers, but nothing that would cause these readings." Ryland looked unconvinced. "Chen, we've worked together for 3 years. You're a brilliant scientist, but a terrible liar." He sighed, his expression softening. "Whatever you're hiding, I hope you know what you're doing." Before Maya could respond, a violent tremor shook the station, sending equipment crashing to the floor. The lights flickered ominously. "Station integrity compromised," announced Arya's calm voice. "Dimensional fracture detected in residential sector." "Dimensional what?" Ryland exclaimed, already rushing toward the exit. Maya felt a surge of panic from both Etherians. "The rift reopens," came Nylara's urgent thought. "The connection between worlds strengthens." Maya hurried after Ryland, her alien companions invisibly following. They arrived at Maya's quarters to find the door flung open, the interior filled with the same violet light that had heralded Nylara and Zelith's arrival. "My God," Ryland breathed, staring at the swirling portal that had formed above Maya's bed. "It's a breach in space-time. Home calls us." Zelith's mental voice was filled with conflicting emotions. Longing for Etheria mingled with reluctance to leave. Maya felt her heart constrict at the implication. Of course they would want to return home. Their arrival had been an accident, not a choice. Yet the thought of losing them, of returning to her solitary existence after experiencing the profound connection they shared, was almost unbearable. "What the hell is happening?" Ryland demanded, turning to Maya. His question died on his lips as Nylara and Zelith chose that moment to reveal themselves, their perceptual shield dropping as the portal's energy interfered with their abilities. Ryland stumbled backward in shock. "Chen, they're friends," Maya said firmly, stepping between the scientist and the aliens. "They mean us no harm." Before Ryland could respond, the portal pulsed violently, expanding to fill half the room. Through it, Maya glimpsed the crystalline landscape of Etheria, beautiful, alien, and calling to its children. "We must stabilize the rift," Nylara communicated urgently, "or both our worlds may suffer." As if in response, the station shuddered again. Emergency alarms began to blare throughout Helios 7. Zelith moved to Maya's side, taking her hand. The touch sent cascades of emotion through their connection: affection, gratitude, and a deep reluctance to part. "Come with us," Zelith suggested impulsively, her mental voice bright with possibility. "See Etheria, Maya Chen. Be our guide as we were yours." Maya looked from Zelith to Nylara, whose expression had grown serious. "The choice must be yours," the older Etherian communicated. "But know that dimensional crossing is not without risk." As the portal pulsed again, growing unstable, Maya found herself facing a decision that would change not just her life, but potentially the course of human understanding of the universe. Behind her, Ryland had recovered enough to activate his communication device. "All personnel, this is Dr. Ryland. Report to residential section immediately. We have..." First contact. Time was running out. The rift between worlds beckoned, as did the approaching footsteps of the station crew. Maya looked into Nylara's opalescent eyes. then at Zelith's hopeful expression, and took a deep breath. Whatever she decided, nothing would ever be the same again. Eclipse of Hearts, wait, Maya called out as Ryland's finger hovered over the station-wide alert button. Please just listen first. To her surprise, the physicist hesitated, his gaze fixed on the two aliens with a mixture of fear and scientific awe. The portal continued to pulse behind them, casting the room in alternating shadows and violet light. 3 minutes, Chen, he said finally. Explain why I shouldn't alert Earth about the alien presence on our station. Maya took a deep breath, feeling Nylara's steadying presence in her mind. Their arrival was accidental, a result of the solar storm interacting with experiments on their world. They're scholars, scientists like us, studying dimensional boundaries. And you've been harboring them for 2 weeks? Ryland's voice sharpened with professional indignation. Do you realize the protocols you've violated? Show him, Nylara suggested mentally. Truth speaks where words fail. Before Maya could respond, Nylara approached Ryland, who instinctively backed against the wall. With deliberate slowness, she raised her hand, palm forward in the universal gesture of peace. She wants to communicate with you, Maya explained quickly. They're telepathic. It's how we've been able to understand each other. Ryland's scientific curiosity visibly warred with his caution. Telepathic. That's theoretically impossible unless their consciousness operates on quantum principles rather than biochemical ones, Maya finished. Yes. Their entire civilization exists in a state of quantum entanglement with their environment. It's beyond anything in our physics. After a moment of tense silence, Ryland straightened his shoulders. Proceed, he said to Nylara. But any sign of hostile intent, we come in peace and curiosity, Nylara projected, touching her fingertips lightly to Ryland's temple. The physicist's eyes widened in shock, then gradually softened as Nylara shared images of Etheria, explanations of their accidental journey, and the knowledge they'd gained about humanity through Maya. When Nylara finally stepped back, Ryland looked dazed. That was extraordinary. He turned to Maya with newfound respect. You've been protecting them while establishing first contact protocols on your own. I couldn't risk them becoming laboratory subjects, Maya admitted. They're people, Ryland. Different from us, but with the same capacity for thought, emotion, culture. The portal behind them flared suddenly, sending a shockwave that knocked equipment from Maya's desk. The station's AI announced in its calm voice, dimensional instability increasing, structural integrity at risk. Zelith moved to examine the rift, her slender form silhouetted against the swirling light. The pathway weakens, she communicated to all of them, her mental voice tinged with concern. Soon it will collapse completely. Is that dangerous? Ryland asked, adapting remarkably quickly to telepathic communication. Nylara's expression grew grave. When doorways between dimensions collapse, energy must disperse, sometimes violently. You're saying this could destroy the station? Maya translated unnecessarily, her heart sinking. We must return, Nylara stated, though Maya detected reluctance beneath her practical tone. Our presence here strains the natural order. Zelith turned from the portal, her opalescent eyes finding Maya's. Unless we find another way, she suggested, a complex image forming in their shared mental space, a vision of stabilized dimensional gateways, of ongoing connection between their worlds. Is that possible? Maya asked, hope rising despite her scientific skepticism. Theoretically, Ryland interjected, already accessing the station's database on his portable device. If the rift operates on quantum entanglement principles, we might be able to stabilize it with a modified version of our containment field. The next hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. The rest of the station's crew had been briefed, their reactions ranging from terrified to ecstatic, and now worked under Ryland's direction to modify Helio 7's equipment for an unprecedented task. Creating a stable bridge between dimensions, Maya worked alongside Nylara and Zelith, their combined knowledge pushing the boundaries of human science. Through their mental connection, complex equations and concepts flowed between them, transcending the limitations of verbal communication. As they worked, the nature of their connection deepened. Maya found herself increasingly aware of Nylara's presence, the ancient wisdom behind her measured thoughts, the carefully restrained emotions that occasionally broke through her composed exterior. With Zelith, The connection was different, vibrant, impulsive, filled with wonder and an almost childlike delight in discovery. During a rare moment of rest, Maya found herself alone with Nylara in the station's observation dome, the magnificent sweep of stars providing a momentary distraction from their urgent work. "If this doesn't succeed," Maya said quietly, "if you have to return permanently." Nylara turned to her, the starlight reflecting in her opalescent eyes. "The separation would be difficult," she admitted, allowing Maya to feel the depth of emotion behind the simple statement. "I've never experienced anything like this connection between us," Maya confessed. "It's like you see parts of me I didn't even know existed. Among my people, such bonds are sacred," Nylara explained, her mental voice intimate in Maya's mind. "What begins as communication can evolve into something deeper, a sharing of essence." Maya felt her pulse quicken as Nylara moved closer, close enough that she could see the intricate patterns shifting beneath her lavender skin. "And what happens then?" she whispered. Instead of answering verbally, Nylara gently placed her palm against Maya's cheek. The contact sent cascades of sensation through Maya's body, not just physical but emotional, a kaleidoscope of feelings that weren't entirely her own. She gasped as Nylara's consciousness brushed against hers, deeper than their previous communications, offering a glimpse of what true union might feel like. "This," Nylara answered simply as she withdrew her hand, leaving Maya breathless. "But complete. Two souls vibrating as one across the quantum field." Before Maya could respond, Zelith appeared at the dome's entrance, her expression unusually serious. "Ryland calls for us." The portal weakens further, the moment broken. They hurried back to the central lab where Ryland and the station's engineers had assembled a makeshift array of equipment around a contained section of the dimensional rift, which had been carefully transported from Maya's quarters. "The good news is, we've mapped the quantum signature of the rift," Ryland explained, dark circles under his eyes betraying his exhaustion. "The bad news is it's collapsing faster than predicted. We have perhaps 4 hours before complete disintegration." "Not enough time to stabilize permanently," Nylara confirmed after examining their calculations. Zelith's mental presence flared with determination, "but enough to create anchor points. Show me your quantum transmitters." Understanding dawned on Maya as she grasped Zelith's plan. "We could establish quantum entanglement between specific points in both dimensions. Not a permanent gateway, but a foundation for future connection." "Like leaving a door slightly ajar instead of wide open," Ryland translated, already recalibrating their equipment. "It might work, but it would require perfect synchronization between our world and theirs." "One of us must return to calibrate from Etheria," Nylara stated, the logical conclusion unavoidable. "While one remains to assist here." Maya felt her heart constrict at the implication. They would be separated not just from her but from each other. "I will go," Nylara decided after a moment of silent communication with Zelith. "My knowledge of Etherian science is deeper. Zelith will remain to help complete the connection." Zelith's mental voice filled with protest, but the logic was undeniable. Slowly she acquiesced, though her distress rippled through their shared consciousness. As the station crew made final preparations, Maya found a moment alone with Nylara near the stabilized portion of the rift. The Etherian's normally composed features were tense with emotion. "Will you be able to return once you've established the anchor?" Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Unknown," Nylara admitted. "The science is untested. If successful, perhaps visits between dimensions might become possible. If not, the unspoken possibility hung between them, that this would be their final meeting, their connection severed by the immutable laws of physics and dimensions." Acting on impulse, Maya stepped forward and embraced Nylara. The alien stiffened momentarily, then relaxed, her arms encircling Maya as they stood at the precipice of separation. "Keep her safe," Nylara's thought came gently. "She appears strong, but her spirit is young." "I will," Maya promised, understanding that Nylara referred to Zelith, "and we'll find a way back to each other. All of us." As alarms began to sound, warning of the rift's increasing instability, Nylara stepped back, her fingers trailing along Maya's arm in a final caress. Without further words, she turned and stepped through the shimmering violet light, her form dissolving into the crystalline landscape beyond. The portal flickered violently, then stabilized at a fraction of its former size, just enough to maintain the quantum connection they were establishing, but no longer large enough for physical passage. Maya felt Zelith's presence behind her, the younger Etherian's grief and hope intermingling in their shared mental space as they watched Nylara's world fade from view. "Now we wait," Maya said softly, reaching back to take Zelith's hand, "and we hope." Constellation of Souls 3 months after Nylara's departure, Maya stood before the quantum anchor, a shimmering pinpoint of violet light contained within a complex array of equipment in what had once been Helios 7's storage bay. The station had been transformed in the intervening time, with half its resources now dedicated to what Earth authorities had designated the Bridge Project. "Any change in the resonance patterns?" Maya asked as Dr. Ryland entered the room, his former skepticism replaced by dedicated fascination with their interstellar research. "Nothing significant," he replied, handing her a tablet displaying the latest readings. "But the quantum entanglement remained stable. Whatever Nylara did on the other side, it worked." Maya nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. The anchor point provided proof that Etheria still existed across the dimensional boundary. But so far, they had achieved nothing beyond the most basic data transmission. Certainly not the return of either Etherian to human space. "She still works," came Zelith's gentle thought as she materialized beside Maya, having abandoned the pretense of normal human movement months ago. The younger Etherian had become an official scientific consultant to the Helios mission, her presence now documented and celebrated rather than hidden. "I feel her determination across the void." Maya smiled at her companion, their mental connection flowing with the easy familiarity of constant contact. In the month since Nylara's departure, Zelith had matured remarkably, her playful spirit tempered by responsibility and separation from her own kind. She had become Maya's constant companion, research partner, and something much more intimate that defied Earth's relationship categories. "The new equipment arrives from Earth next week," Maya said, seeking reasons for optimism. The quantum amplifiers might strengthen the signal enough for more complex communication. Zelith's mental response carried affectionate exasperation. Always the scientist searching for technical solutions. She took Maya's hand, her lavender fingers intertwining with Maya's tan ones. Some connections transcend technology. Before Maya could respond, a junior researcher burst into the room. "Dr. Chen, the anchor, it's changing." They rushed to the monitoring station where, indeed, the quantum signature of their interdimensional connection was fluctuating in patterns they'd never observed before. "It's not destabilizing," Ryland noted with surprise. "It's expanding." The pinpoint of violet light at the center of their equipment began to grow, pulsing with increasing brightness until Maya had to shield her eyes. Equipment alarms blared as energy readings spiked beyond their programmed parameters. "She comes," Zelith's mental voice sang with sudden joy. "She found the way." "Evacuate non-essential personnel," Maya ordered, her scientific caution warring with the hope blooming in her chest. "Ryland, recalibrate the containment field to accommodate expansion." As the room cleared of all but the core research team, the light coalesced into a miniature version of the portal that had first brought the Etherians to Helios 7. Through their mental connection, Maya felt Zelith's consciousness reach out across the dimensional barrier, seeking her kindred spirit. A moment of breathless anticipation passed, and then a figure stepped through. Nylara stood before them, her lavender form glowing with residual energy from the crossing. She appeared somehow changed, new patterns flowing beneath her translucent skin, her opalescent eyes deeper with acquired knowledge. The dimensional mathematics were more complex than anticipated, she communicated to the assembled humans, her mental voice reaching them all with practiced ease. But not insurmountable. Zelith moved first, crossing the space between them in what seemed like a single fluid motion to embrace her fellow Etherian. Their reunion resonated through the mental connection Maya shared with them both, joy, relief, and completeness that brought tears to her eyes. When they finally separated, Nylara turned to Maya, her mental presence reaching out with a tenderness that made Maya's breath catch. "Scholar Chen," she greeted formally, though her eyes conveyed much more. "Nylara," Maya whispered, suddenly aware of the watching research team. Professional decorum warred with the overwhelming urge to close the distance between them. Sensing her hesitation, Nilara simply extended her hand, palm upward, the same gesture she had offered upon their first meeting. When Maya placed her hand in Nilara's, their connection reopened fully, flooding Maya's consciousness with everything Nilara had experienced during their separation: the struggles to recalibrate Etherian technology, the opposition from conservative elements of her society, and beneath it all a constant longing for the unique bond they had formed. "You've done it," Ryland interrupted, his scientific excitement overriding the emotional undercurrents in the room. "You've created a stable interdimensional passage." Nilara turned to him, her composure returning. "Not permanent, but reproducible. A doorway that can be opened when needed, closed when necessary." "The implications are staggering," Ryland continued. "Knowledge exchange, cultural diplomacy." "Yes," Nilara agreed. "But first we must establish proper protocols. Your world is not yet ready for unfettered access to mine, nor mine to yours." "Controlled cultural exchange," Maya suggested, her scientific mind engaging despite the emotional turbulence of reunion. A limited program of scholars traveling in both directions. The discussion continued for hours as they outlined the framework for humanity's first formal interdimensional relationship. Throughout it all, Maya remained acutely aware of both Etherians, Seelith's vibrant presence and Nilara's measured wisdom, forming complementary halves of a connection that had fundamentally altered her understanding of intimacy and communication. That night, after the excitement had settled and reports had been transmitted to Earth, Maya found herself in her quarters with both Etherians for the first time in months. The small space hummed with unspoken emotions and possibilities. "Will you stay?" Maya asked finally, the question directed at Nilara but encompassing both her visitors. Nilara considered her response carefully. "The Council has appointed me as Etheria's primary representative to humanity. I am authorized to remain here while the exchange program develops." Zealith's mental presence brightened with delight. "And I have been confirmed as cultural liaison. They could not separate us again even if they wished to. So we have time," Maya said, relief washing through her. "Time to explore what this connection between us might become." Nilara moved closer, the patterns beneath her skin shifting with emotion she no longer attempted to conceal. "Among my people there is a concept called Trevisi, the union of three souls into a constellation of shared consciousness." "Like a relationship?" Maya asked, struggling to find human equivalents for the complex concept Nilara was sharing. Seelith laughed, the sound like crystal chimes. "More than your human partnerships, deeper than friendship, beyond physical joining. A harmony of minds." "Is that what's happening between us?" Maya whispered, suddenly understanding the unique nature of her connection with both Etherians, how Zealith's vibrancy complemented Nilara's depth, how she herself provided a grounding influence for their ethereal perspectives. Instead of answering with words, Nilara extended one hand to Maya and one to Zealith. As they joined hands in a circle, their mental connection expanded exponentially, creating a shared consciousness where thoughts, emotions, and sensations flowed freely between them. In that perfect moment of communion, Maya understood that what they had discovered transcended the boundaries not just of their respective worlds, but of conventional understanding. They were creating something entirely new, a bridge between species, between dimensions, between hearts that beat to different rhythms yet found harmony together. "This is only the beginning," Nilara's thought resonated within their shared consciousness. "Of many beautiful beginnings," Zealith added, her mental voice shimmering with joy. "And no endings," Maya completed, the words both promise and prophecy. Beyond the viewport of her quarters, the stars of an unfamiliar system glittered against the void. Distant, yet connected by the same fundamental forces that had brought three beings from different worlds into this moment of perfect understanding. As their consciousnesses intertwined more deeply, Maya knew with absolute certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them not as separate entities, but as a constellation of souls navigating the infinite possibilities of a universe more wondrous than any of them had imagined alone. In the gentle violet glow of their shared aura, three worlds had become one.